Today, we're going to explore a truth that society often tries to bury under layers of romantic movies, social expectations, and well-meaning but misguided advice. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. Now, I can feel some of you shifting uncomfortably in your seats. Perhaps you're thinking, isn't that selfish? Aren't we supposed to put others first? Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to pour from an empty cup? Have you ever noticed how flight attendants always instruct you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others? There's profound wisdom in these simple examples that most of us overlook. Think about the last time you felt truly alive, completely at peace with who you are. For many of you, that memory might be distant, clouded by years of compromising your own needs, desires, and dreams for the sake of maintaining relationships. We've been conditioned to believe that sacrifice equals love, that putting ourselves last somehow makes us better people. But what if I told you that this belief is not just wrong, it's destroying your ability to create genuine, meaningful connections with others? Every relationship you have is filtered through your relationship with yourself. When you don't truly know, accept, and love yourself, you're not really sharing your authentic self with others. You're sharing a carefully constructed version of what you think they want. You're playing a role, wearing a mask, and deep down, you know it. That nagging feeling of disconnect, that quiet desperation for something more meaningful, it all stems from this fundamental misalignment. Let me share something powerful with you. The universe has a peculiar way of reflecting back to us exactly what we believe about ourselves. When you choose yourself, when you make the conscious decision to become your own best friend, your own cheerleader, your own source of validation, something magical happens. The quality of every relationship in your life begins to transform. But here's the part that might surprise you. Choosing yourself isn't about isolation or selfishness. It's about creating such a deep well of self-love and self-awareness that your relationships become choices rather than when you're no longer desperately seeking validation, acceptance, or completion from others. You're free to love them for who they truly are, not for what they can give you. Imagine walking into a room full of people and not feeling the need to prove your worth to anyone. Imagine being able to say no without guilt and yes with genuine enthusiasm. Imagine being so comfortable in your own skin that you no longer need to control how others perceive you. This isn't just a fantasy. This is what becomes possible when you make the conscious choice to prioritize your relationship with yourself. I want you to take a moment right now. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, when was the last time I made a decision purely based on what I wanted, not what others expected of me? When was the last time I celebrated my own achievements without seeking external validation? When was the last time I truly listened to my inner voice without drowning it out with the opinions of others? The answers to these questions might be uncomfortable. They might reveal patterns you've been avoiding, choices you've been postponing, dreams you've been denying. But here's the beautiful truth. Awareness is the first step toward transformation. By being here today, by engaging with these questions, you're already beginning to choose yourself. Let's talk about what it really means to choose yourself. It's not about becoming selfish or disconnected from others. It's about becoming so deeply connected to your own truth that you naturally inspire others to do the same. When you choose yourself, you're making a declaration to the universe. I am worthy of my own time, attention, and this journey begins with small choices. It's about learning to trust your intuition over external opinions. It's about setting boundaries that honor your energy and values. It's about investing in your growth and well-being not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Each time you make these choices, you're strengthening your relationship with yourself, creating a foundation so solid that no external relationship can shake it. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who radiate authentic confidence, who seem comfortable in any situation, who attract meaningful relationships effortlessly. What do they all have in common? They've mastered the art of choosing themselves. They've done the inner work to become their own best friends, their own trusted advisors, their own source of validation. The beauty of choosing yourself is that it creates a ripple effect in every area of your life, When you truly value yourself, you naturally attract relationships that mirror that value. When you honor your boundaries, others learn to respect them. When you speak your truth without fear, you inspire others to do the same. This is how choosing yourself becomes an act of service to the world. But here's where many of us get stuck. We understand the concept intellectually, but the actual practice of choosing ourselves feels foreign, perhaps even frightening. We spent so long measuring our worth through the lens of our relationships that the idea of standing alone feels like stepping into an abyss. Let me tell you something profane. That fear you're feeling, it's not a warning sign. It's an invitation to grow. Think about a garden for a moment. When you first plant a seed, it needs to break through its own shell before it can even begin to reach for the sunlight. That breaking, that moment of vulnerability is essential for growth. The same is true for personal transformation. The discomfort you feel when you first begin to choose yourself is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that you're finally doing something right. Let's talk about what happens when you don't choose yourself first. You become a chameleon, constantly changing your colors to match your environment. You say yes when you want to say no. You silence your dreams because they don't fit into someone else's. You compromise your values in small ways until you barely recognize yourself anymore. And the most painful part, the relationships you sacrifice yourself for often end up failing anyway because they're built on a foundation of inauthenticity. Every time you choose someone else over yourself, you're not just betraying yourself. You're teaching others how to treat you. You're setting a precedent that says your needs, your dreams, your boundaries are negotiable. And once that precedent is set, it takes tremendous courage and effort to change it. But what if I told you that choosing yourself actually makes you better equipped for relationships? When you're deeply connected to your own truth, you don't need others to validate your choices. When you're comfortable with your own company, you don't enter relationships from a place of desperation or need. When you know your own worth, you naturally attract people who recognize and respect that worth. The most magnetic people you've ever met probably weren't the ones who were constantly seeking approval or trying to please everyone. They were the ones who had a strong sense of self, who knew their values and lived by them unapologetically. That's not coincidence. It's causation. Let's explore what choosing yourself actually looks like in practice. It starts with small moments of truth. It's about pausing before automatically saying yes to something and asking yourself, is this aligned with who I am and what I want? It's about spending time alone, not because you have to, but because you want to get to know yourself better. It's about investing in your growth even when others don't understand or support it. As you begin to choose yourself, you'll notice that your definition of relationships begins to change. Instead of seeing relationships as a means of completing yourself, you'll start seeing them as opportunities to share your completeness with others. Instead of seeking someone to fix your broken pieces, you'll attract people who appreciate your wholeness, including your imperfections. Think about the oxygen mask principle again. And when you secure your own mask first, you're not just ensuring your survival, you're putting yourself in a position to help others more effectively. The same principle applies to emotional well-being. When you choose yourself first, you're not being selfish. You're creating a sustainable foundation for giving to others. I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine waking up every morning and your first thought isn't about what others expect from you, but about what you expect from yourself. Imagine making decisions based on your inner guidance rather than external pressure. Imagine having relationships that enhance your life rather than define it. This isn't just positive thinking. This is about fundamental transformation. When you choose yourself, you're not just changing your actions. You're changing your entire energetic frequency. You begin to vibrate at the level of self-respect, self-love, and authenticity. And here's the miracles. The universe responds to that frequency by bringing you experiences and relationships that match it. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you'll never feel lonely, never doubt yourself, or never make mistakes. It means you'll have the inner resources to handle these challenges with grace. It means you'll trust yourself enough to learn from your mistakes rather than being defined by them. It means you'll understand that temporary loneliness is better than permanent compromise of your soul's truth. Think about the relationships in your life right now. Are they lifting you higher or keeping you small? Are they reflecting your true worth or reinforcing old patterns of self-doubt? Are they based on mutual growth or mutual dependence? These aren't easy questions to answer, but they're essential ones. The journey of choosing yourself is like climbing a mountain. From the bottom, it looks daunting, perhaps even impossible. But with each step you take, with each small choice to honor yourself, you gain strength and clarity. The view from the top, that perspective of seeing your life and relationships from a place of wholeness, is worth every challenging step. Every great relationship you'll ever have will be built on the foundation of your relationship with yourself. Every act of love you'll ever give will be more powerful when it comes from a place of self-love. Every boundary you'll ever set will be more effective when it's rooted in self-respect. Now, let's dive into something that might challenge everything you've been taught about relationships. Society often tells us that true love means putting the other person first. But I want you to consider this radical truth. The most profound act of love you can offer another person is to be fully, authentically yourself. Think about that for a moment. When you're trying to be what someone else wants you to be, you're not actually giving them the gift of yourself. You're giving them a performance. And deep down, both of you know it's not real. That subtle disconnect, that quiet ache for something more authentic, it all stems from this fundamental misalignment between who you are and who you're pretending to be. You share something powerful with it. Every time you compromise your essence to maintain a relationship, you're not just hurting yourself, you're depriving the world of your unique gifts. You're silencing a voice that only you can. You're dimming a light that only you can shine. And here's the truth that might shake you to your core. The world needs your authentic self more than it needs your pleasing self. Consider the ripple effect of choosing yourself. When you stand firmly in your truth, you give others permission to do the same. When you honor your boundaries, you teach others how to respect their own. When you pursue your dreams unapologetically, you inspire others to believe in their own possibilities. Your act of choosing yourself becomes a beacon of hope for everyone watching from the shadows of their own self-doubt. But here's where it gets really interesting. The moment you truly choose yourself is often the moment your relationships begin to transform. Some relationships might fall away, and that's okay. They were probably based on old patterns that no longer serve your highest good. Other relationships will deepen, becoming more authentic and meaningful than ever before. And new relationships will enter your life, relationships that reflect your newfound sense of self-worth. Think about water for a moment. When water is still, it becomes stagnant. But when it's flowing freely, it remains fresh and life-giving. The same is true for your energy. When you're stuck in patterns of people-pleasing and self-abandonment, your energy becomes stagnant. But when you choose to let your authentic self flow freely, you become a source of fresh energy and inspiration for everyone around you. Let's talk about fear for a moment, because I know it's there. The fear of being alone, the fear of being judged, the fear of making mistakes. These fears are natural, but they're based on a fundamental misunderstanding. When you choose yourself, you're not choosing to be alone. You're choosing to be in authentic relationship with life itself. You're choosing to trust that the universe has a plan for you that's bigger than your fears. There's a truth that might surprise you. The greatest act of service you can offer the world is to become fully yourself. When you're aligned with your authentic nature, you naturally attract opportunities, relationships, and experiences that match your true frequency. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to chase anyone. You simply have to be brave enough to be who you really are. Think about the people who have impacted your life most deeply. Chances are, they weren't the ones who were trying to be perfect or please everyone. They were the ones who had the courage to be themselves, who lived their truth even when it wasn't popular. They chose themselves first, and paradoxically, that choice made them more valuable to others. Let me share something profound about relationships. They're not meant to complete you. They're meant to complement you. When you enter a relationship looking for someone to fill your empty spaces, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But when you enter a relationship as a whole person, looking to share your completeness with another whole person, that's when magic happens. Every great love story begins with self-love. Every meaningful connection starts with self-connection. Every authentic relationship flows from authentic self-expression. When you choose yourself, you're not just changing your life. You're changing the very foundation upon which all your relationships are built. They wait for permission. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for someone else to validate their worth. Let me tell you something powerful. The permission you're waiting for, it can only come from you. The perfect moment. It's now. The validation you're seeking, it's already within you, waiting to be acknowledged. Think about a tree for a moment. A tree doesn't ask permission to grow tall. It doesn't apologize for taking up space. It doesn't trim its branches to please others. It simply grows in the direction of its nature, and in doing so, it provides shelter, beauty, and inspiration to everything around it. You have the same right and responsibility to grow in the direction of your nature. Let's talk about what happens when you truly embrace this truth. Your decisions become clearer because they're aligned with your inner compass. Your boundaries become stronger because they're rooted in self-respect. Your relationships become deeper because they're based on authenticity rather than obligation. And most importantly, your impact on the world becomes more powerful because it's coming from a place of genuine self-expression. But remember this. Choosing yourself isn't a one-time decision. It's a moment-by-moment commitment. It's choosing yourself in the small moments when it would be easier to compromise. It's choosing yourself in the difficult moments when others are pressuring you to conform. It's choosing yourself in the quiet moments when old doubts try to creep back in. And now, let's explore something that might challenge your current perspective on personal growth. Many of us have been taught that growth happens through struggle, through forcing ourselves to change. But what if the deepest transformation happens not through force, but through acceptance, not through fighting who we are, but through finally embracing our authentic nature? Think about a flower blooming. It doesn't strain or struggle. It simply opens itself to the sun, following its natural rhythm of unfoldment. Your journey of choosing yourself works in much the same way. When you stop fighting against your true nature and start aligning with it, transformation happens naturally and effortlessly. Here's a profound truth that might shake your understanding. The relationship patterns you're struggling with aren't actually about the other people in your life. They're about your relationship with yourself. Every external conflict is reflecting an internal one. Every difficult relationship is showing you where you need to choose yourself more fully. When you're truly at peace with yourself, when you've fully chosen yourself, other people's opinions and judgments lose their power over you. Not because you've become invulnerable, but because you're so deeply rooted in your own truth that external winds can't shake. This is the kind of inner strength that no relationship can give you. It can only come from within. Let me share something powerful about the nature of choice. Every time you choose yourself, you're not just making a decision in that moment. You're setting a precedent for your future. You're telling the universe, this is how I deserve to be treated. You're creating a new pattern that will attract different experiences and relationships into your life. But here's where it gets really interesting. The moment you start choosing yourself consistently, you'll notice that the quality of your choices improves. It's like upgrading your internal operating system. Suddenly, you're not just choosing between good and bad options. You're choosing between good and better, between better and best. Your standards naturally rise because you're operating from a place of self-worth rather than self-doubt. Think about this. Every great achievement in human history started with someone choosing themselves. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every positive change began with someone saying, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and this is what I'm going to do about it. When you choose yourself, you're not just changing your life. You're contributing to the evolution of human consciousness. Let's talk about something that often holds people back. The myth of selfishness. Society has conditioned us to believe that choosing ourselves is somehow wrong or selfish. But consider, is it selfish for the sun to shine? Is it selfish for a rose to bloom? Is it selfish for a bird to sing its unique song? Your authentic self-expression is not just a right. It's a responsibility to the greater whole of life. There's a truth that might surprise you. The more fully you choose yourself, the more capacity you have to truly love others. When you're no longer seeking validation or trying to fill your empty spaces through relationships, you can actually see and appreciate others for who they truly are. Your love becomes a gift freely given rather than a need desperately seeking fulfillment. Consider the impact of your choice on future generations. When you choose yourself, you're not just changing your own life, you're creating a new possibility for everyone who comes after you. You're showing others that it's possible to live authentically, to love yourself fully, to choose yourself unapologetically. Your courage becomes a bridge that others can cross. But let me be clear about something. That choosing yourself doesn't mean you'll never feel fear, doubt, or uncertainty again. It means you'll have a different relationship with these emotions. Instead of letting them stop you, you'll recognize them as natural parts of the growth process. Instead of fighting them, you'll learn to move forward with them as companions on your journey. Think about water again for a moment. Water doesn't fight its way through obstacles. It flows around them, finding the path of least resistance while still moving inexorably toward its destination. This is how choosing yourself works. It's not about forcing or fighting. It's about flowing with your natural inclinations while staying true to your essential nature. Here's something profound about the nature of personal power. It's not something you acquire. It's something you unlock by removing the barriers you've placed between yourself and your authentic expression. Every time you choose yourself, you're removing one of these barriers. Every time you honor your truth, you're clearing the path for your natural power to flow. Let's talk about what happens when you fully embrace this way of being. Your relationships become choices rather than necessities. Your actions become expressions rather than obligations. Your life becomes a creation rather than a reaction. And most importantly, your presence in the world becomes a gift rather than a need. But remember this, the journey of choosing yourself is not linear. There will be moments when you slip back into old patterns, when you temporarily forget your worth, when you compromise your truth. These moments aren't failures. They're opportunities to choose yourself again, to recommit to your authentic path, to deepen your self-trust. Think about the most profound relationships in your life, the ones that truly nourish your soul. Chances are these relationships flourish not because you sacrificed yourself to maintain them, but because you were brave enough to be yourself within them. This is the paradox of authentic connection. It comes not from losing yourself in another, but from being fully yourself with another. As we move toward the conclusion of our time together, I want to share something profound with you. The greatest gift you can give to the world is your authentic self. Not a polished version, not an edited version, not a version that you think others want to see, but your raw, real, magnificent self. Every great shift in human consciousness started with individual choice. Every positive change in the world began with someone choosing to stand in their truth. When you choose yourself, you're not just making a personal decision. You're contributing to the evolution of human awareness. You're adding your unique light to the collective brilliance of human potential. Let me share something powerful about the nature of transformation. Many people think that choosing themselves means they have to make dramatic changes in their external life. But the deepest transformations often happen invisibly at first. It's in those quiet moments when you choose to honor your truth instead of pleasing others. It's in those small decisions when you choose to trust your intuition instead of following the crowd. These seemingly minor choices accumulate into major shifts in your life's direction. Consider the metaphor of a lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't run around trying to save ships. It simply stands in its truth, shining its light consistently. The ships find their way because the lighthouse is unwavering in its purpose. When you choose yourself fully, you become like that lighthouse. Your authentic presence becomes a guide for others, not because you're trying to change them, but because you're being true to yourself. Here's a truth that might revolutionize your understanding. Every relationship in your life is teaching you how to have a better relationship with yourself. The challenges, the conflicts, the the disappointments. They're all invitations to choose yourself more fully, to love yourself more deeply. Let's talk about something really important. The journey of choosing yourself is not about reaching a destination. It's not about becoming perfect or never making mistakes. It's about developing an unshakable commitment to your own truth, your own growth, your own authentic expression. It's about learning to be your own best friend, your own trusted advisor, your own source of validation. Think about the power of this shift in perspective when you no longer need others to complete you, to validate you, to give your life meaning. You're free to love them for who they truly are. Your relationships become expressions of your wholeness rather than attempts to fill your emptiness. This is the paradox of choosing yourself. It actually makes you more available for genuine connection. Let me share something profound about the nature of love. True love, whether it's for yourself or others, is not about possession or control. It's about freedom. When you choose yourself fully, you give others the freedom to be themselves fully. When you honor your truth, you create space for others to honor theirs. This is how choosing yourself becomes an act of love for the whole world. Every time you compromise yourself to maintain a relationship, you're not just betraying yourself, you're betraying the divine purpose that brought you into existence. You're here for a reason. Your unique perspective, your unique gifts, your unique way of being in the world, they're all essential parts of the greater tapestry of life. Here's something that might challenge your current beliefs. So the universe doesn't make mistakes. Your unique combination of strengths and weaknesses, your particular way of seeing the world, your specific set of experiences, they're all perfectly designed for your soul's evolution. When you choose yourself, you're aligning with this divine design. You're saying yes to your soul's purpose. Think about the impact your choice can have on future generations. When you choose yourself, you're not just changing your own life. You're creating new possibilities for everyone who comes after you. You're showing others that it's possible to live authentically, to love yourself fully, to trust your own inner guidance. Your courage becomes a bridge that others can cross. Let me share one final truth with you. The relationship you have with yourself is the foundation upon which every other relationship in your life is built. When that foundation is strong, when it's built on self-love, self-trust, and self-respect, every relationship in your life naturally rises to that level. When that foundation is weak, when it's built on self-doubt, self-criticism, and self-abandonment, no external relationship, no matter how promising, can compensate for that internal disconnect. As we close our time together, I want you to remember this. Choosing yourself is not a selfish act. It's a sacred act. It's not about isolation. It's about authentic connection. It's not about becoming hard or closed. It's about becoming so deeply connected to your truth that nothing can shake you from it. Your journey of choosing yourself begins now, in this moment. It begins with a simple decision to honor your truth, to trust your intuition, to value your own well-being. Each time you make this choice, you're not just changing, because when you choose yourself fully, you give others permission to do the same. When you shine your light brightly, you illuminate the path for others to find their way. You're not here to live up to someone else's expectations. You are not here to make yourself smaller to make others comfortable. You are not here to sacrifice your truth for the sake of keeping the peace. You are here to be fully, magnificently, unapologetically yourself. The world doesn't need more people who silence their truth to please others. The world needs more people who are brave enough to choose themselves, to stand in their authentic power, to share their unique gifts without apology. The world needs you, the real you, the authentic you, the day you that emerges when you finally make the choice to put yourself first. So let this be your moment of transformation. Let this be the moment when you finally give yourself permission to choose yourself. Let this be the moment when you commit to being your own best friend, your own greatest advocate, your own source of validation. Because when you choose yourself, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the world.